Hello, this is Loxton, and you're watching Gnoggin. So I've been working on a series that covers the alchemy inspirations in Pokemon in detail recently. All of those are linked here. And while this video is covering the same topic, I'm leaving it out of that series under technicality, just because I want that series to be wholly based on what we know for sure, more factual, less future speculation. And this video later on is going to have a lot of future speculation as to what Necrozma means and what it will do in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So consider this a temporary episode 3 of that series, but a final version of episode 3 will come out sometime after Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and it will go over what actually happened, rather than speculation. So, Pokemon Sun and Moon are both heavily inspired by alchemy, especially the lore surrounding the legendaries, and the ultimate goal of alchemy was twofold. First, it was to convert lead into gold, and secondly, the most prevalent one, is the ultimate power over Azoth, leading to immortality. But what is Azoth? Well, it's everything. It's the power of the infinite. It is the spirit, the soul. It's everywhere. It's in all of us, and it's God Almighty, and it's based in light. Mastering even a fraction of the element of Azoth would grant you infinite wisdom and immortality. And the Philosopher's Stone is said to grant some power over the Azoth, hence why it's what alchemists over the ages were constantly trying to create. Also, it should be noted that in alchemy, the sun and moon are considered to be planets, and the sun is a separate entity from the stars, and the stars are singularly one entity. It was a different time. Alchemy is a mixture of science and spirituality, science and magic, which fits right into the Pokemon world, a world filled with science and technology well beyond our own, and quite literally, magical creatures. In fact, if you listen to how the Pokemon describes infinity energy, it's very in line with the definitions of Azoth. In fact, the references to alchemy definitively started in Generation 5, though there is evidence to suggest that Generation 4 is where it truly all began. And there was even a small, tiny bit in Gen 3, but this video right now isn't for covering everything. That took like 4 hours, and that's 4 hours that I've started covering in more detail with this new series that is still in the works, and is going to be in the works probably for a long while. So what does Necrozma mean? Well, necro comes from Greek. It means relating to death, or corpses. It's why necromancy is mancy, magic, of the dead. Then, chroma means the purity or intensity of color, also in Greek. And it should be noted that the intensity of a color often correlates to how much pure light you're pumping into it. The Z in the name likely also symbolizes an end, or death, of something. So overall, this name seems to say death of color, and color, of course, is merely light. It's also worth noting that before it was called Sun and Moon, these games were part of Game Freak's Project Rainbow, and Necrozma is known for being a prism, a glass or crystal-like structure that can take light and split it up into a rainbow. Also, being fully black means those parts of Necrozma fully absorb the light, essentially killing it. So death of color may also mean death of light. In fact, this is what happens to the new Dark World that we see in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It's a world where Necrozma won and got what it wanted. It absorbed all of the natural light from the world, meaning now the people there are stuck using limited artificial lighting, as they have no more sun and no more moon. Which goes in line with everything. Necrozma captures Solgaleo or Lunala, two Pokemon which radiate light and are the emissaries of the sun and the moon. Necrozma catches them and takes them over, turning into light energy. And with these powers over the sun and moon, it can go after those beacons of light themselves. This is likely the baseline of the plot of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, at least the new added stuff. And the Ultra Beast Recon Squad are likely coming to Alola, chasing the UBs and Necrozma as they started leaving their world and began entering the world of Alola. Their mission is to protect other worlds from Necrozma's hunger. And after they go through a wormhole and capture an Ultra Beast, they then seal it up with UB adhesive. Maybe. At least. That's a very loose theory, just based on the name. So what does Necrozma mean in alchemy, specifically? And especially, what does Necrozma merging or taking the energy from Solgaleo and Lunala mean? Well, it's actually kind of crazy. Take a look at this image. This is one of the most important images in all of alchemy. It is one of the two most common depictions of the Azoth, the other one being this one, which I've gotten made into a t-shirt. Links below. This is an awesome t-shirt. It's so soft and smooth, and there's tons of color options. It's amazing. I just bent time and space by... Look at that. I'm bending the space behind me. Anyway, the reason these images are so important is because they cover everything that the Azoth is. Here, we are shown all 7 of the alchemical processes, all 7 alchemical planets, and the 3 powers, which, you may have noticed already, are represented by the sun, the moon, and a prism. Specifically, this prism is a magical cube known as the corpus. It contains all 5 elements, earth, water, fire, and air, and ether, which is basically spirit. This corpus prism purifies light and represents the body, while the sun and moon represent the soul and spirit. Spirit, in this case, is closer to mind in alchemical definition. It's mind, body, and soul. And what is a body to do with no soul or spirit? This is part of why Necrozma's capturing or merging, taking the power from Solgaleo or Lunala is such a big deal. It's taking a massive step in becoming complete. If you were to merge all of these, soul, spirit, and body, you would have a complete, godly entity, which is the backbone of the Azoth, hence it being the 3 corners of the back triangle in this illustration. Once you have mastered all 3 and merged, you can move on to mastering the alchemical processes and eventually gain complete power over the Azoth, God's power. And that vaguely segues into eclipses. Eclipses are extremely symbolic in alchemy, to the point where a perfect eclipse is said to contain the highest levels of concentrated Azoth there can naturally be. Good thing the eclipse is happening. Seems to be a major plot point in the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon games. Hence the eclipse in the trailer. And hence even the logos looking like Necrozma causing either a solar or causing a solar or lunar eclipse. And with such power over Azoth, you can gain godly abilities, most notably the ability to open portals to other worlds, which also happens to be a common symbol of the eclipse. It's a portal to the spirit realm, so to speak, and that is the case in so many cultures you can't even count them on your hands. So, you know, portals to ultra space are a major plot point in Sun and Moon, and portals to parallel universes have been becoming more and more prevalent in Pokemon as time goes on, but I'll save that for later. Back to the logos. Knowing that this is Necrozma means it's not exactly a natural eclipse. You see, back to the Azoth image, a natural eclipse is when these 2 upper powers combine. But the whole reason this backbone to Azoth is an inverted triangle is because these 2 are heavenly planets, and the perfect geometric prism tends to be a man-made thing. Though, despite being man-made, it has similar effects, similar manipulation of the Azoth powers. Light. Just as the sun and moon manipulate light in various ways, as does a prism. The prism is how we amplify the natural light given off by the sun and moon, capture it, and spread it out into a rainbow. By combining the powers of Necrozma with Solgaleo or Lunala, we are now reaching 2/3 of the way to capturing light's power, the backbone of Azoth. 2/3 of the way from gaining godly abilities, mastering the Azoth, and being able to open portals anywhere, and even the power to merge realms and worlds. It all comes together. If Necrozma, Solgaleo, and Lunala were to merge into some sort of lion-bat crystal thing like a weird manticore, which, come to think of it, is a lion, a bat, and a scorpion. And while it's definitely stylized for sure, these are some mighty huge claws that Necrozma is giving to Lunala, and this seems to be a stinger on the end of Solgaleo's tail, and those antennas make it look more insectoid. Well, regardless of the form it takes, merging all 3 would create a Pokemon whose power rivals even that of Arceus, the god of Pokemon. In fact, some alchemists believed that if they were to master the Azoth, they would become even more powerful than God. Needless to say, I am extremely excited to see where Game Freak takes Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and considering that these games are the events of Sun and Moon, but in a parallel universe where things are different, that really makes me think that these 2 worlds are going to merge at some point due to the actions in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Now entering the zone of prediction. Let's say in Pokemon Ultra Moon, Necrozma merges with or takes the power from Lunala, and then in the late plot, that Necrozma Lunala opens a portal to the original sun, where Solgaleo resides, in an attempt to merge with Solgaleo 2. Maybe that will be the end goal of the Aether Foundation, or this new team. Perhaps these people living in a world of darkness want to bring their world back into a world of light again. And merging entire worlds, entire universes, is only possible with near-godly power. Plus, the plot twist of the Aether Foundation isn't really a plot twist anymore, since everybody knows about it. Maybe this time around, they will full-on be the good guys. At least, later on. But yeah, maybe now the new twist is that the Ultra Beast Recon Squad turn out to be the new bad guys, and want to bring their world into the light world, or perhaps swap the locations of the two worlds. Meaning your world will become the world of darkness. And they plan to do so by merging all three Pokemon, but you, of course, single-handedly stop them and their centuries of research and power building because you give your Pokemon love, and that makes you the better trainer. Yay. But some more into the symbolism of it all. Interestingly, Zygarde didn't really do much in Sun and Moon, and I think that's because it's going to be more important here. After all, if the light goes away, that's bad news for the Earth, which Zygarde is sworn to protect. It is the guardian of the Earth, after all. This makes me wonder if the four of them symbolize Sun, Moon, Earth, and the stars. The four forces of the universe. In alchemy, of course. The Earth is the center of the universe, remember, and the stars are a singular entity. So if we look at the back of Necrozma, there is a star symbol, and the whole thing is that it's absorbing light, which stars do after they die and become black holes. And Necro, death, Necrozma could be based on a dead star. Perhaps Necrozma and Zygarde both have Z's in it for a reason. And also think about it, you've got a bunch of beings from another plane of existence coming down and messing with your Earth? What are you gonna do? Come to think of it, it's been known for some time that the 3 Gen 6 legendaries are based on Norse mythology, 50% Zygarde being Jormungandr. I'm probably mispronouncing that, which is this giant snake that circles the world tree, which is a take on Ouroboros. Ouroboros is found in so many cultures all over the world, but under different names. It's an ancient symbol with roots in alchemy. It's a long dragon that eats its own tail. It symbolizes the infinite, and many other things, such as the nature's endless cycle of life and death, the circular logic that is life itself. The 1st century book on Gnostic alchemy, the Chrysopedia of Cleopatra, uses a black and white halved Ouroboros to simultaneously symbolize infinity, life and death, and the duality of life. And this particular Ouroboros symbol eventually evolved into depicting the two contraries, depicting a black scaly dragon and a white fluffy winged dragon, which further symbolizes the duality of life and existence. And the two contraries are 2/3 of the 3 essentials, the third one being said to rule over and freeze the other two. In ancient Eastern alchemy, particularly in India and China, and still found within some teachings of Taoism today, the Ouroboros is used to symbolize the primal energy found within all of us. And the whole purpose of enlightenment is to awaken this energy and gain various, what we would call, supernatural powers. Awaken the power that's inside. The Infinity Energy and Mega Evolution are both prevalent in this arc of Pokemon that happens to feature Ouroboros as a big oh my word, Ouroboros is everywhere. Then, as mentioned, in Norse mythology, Ouroboros takes the role of Jormungandr, a reoccurring character, so to speak, in Norse mythology. As is Fenrir, and it's been speculated by many for a long time now that that complete Zygarde is then based on the frost giants of Norse mythology, perhaps even specifically Hel, or many others. And all 3 of these Norse beings are all related to Loki in some way, and are all frequently brought up together as a group. And they share a common theme. They become bound, and will only be released during Ragnarok. Ragnarok, to many, of course, is the Norse Armageddon, and we've been over the end of Pokemon thing quite enough already. Though, a lot of the stuff I said in that series that we thought turned out to be wrong may actually turn out to have been right all along, just in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon instead of Sun and Moon. A lot of it is still wrong, just because it's speculation. Speculation's always wrong, but some of it's turning out to be more true than we initially intended. Anyway, while many people think of Ragnarok as an Armageddon equivalent, it isn't entirely that. It's not the end of the world per se, rather it's the end of the world how it is currently. After Ragnarok, the world will never be the same. But what is Ragnarok exactly? Well, it's the battle to end all battles, a battle between everyone and everything, and if this means that the bound Zygarde gains full power and gets released in this final battle, you know that it's going to be a major battle, and the fate of the Earth is at hand. This is a battle that will have the highest stakes in all of Pokemon history, and so more legendary Pokemon may get involved than ever, hence so many legendary Pokemon themes flowing into each other over the last few generations, covering the many bases of one solid inspiration, the mythology surrounding alchemy. Plus, even non-legendary Pokemon seem to point to something drastic happening, especially in Sun and Moon. There are a few Pokedex entries that point to something catastrophic happening soon in Alola, like how the pseudo-legendary Komoos have been training for generations to help defeat a coming darkness. Perhaps literally, Necrozma. Looker and Nanu have mentioned that the Ultra Beasts are responsible for another world's destruction, and that may be what this new Dark World we are seeing is. Yet another reason for them to have an Ultra Beast Recon Squad. Even Type Null was created to counter the forces and powers of the Ultra Beasts, and they had to base their creation on Arceus, God, just to counter them. So all of these coming together in one epic climactic battle, that is Ragnarok, would lead to this story arc coming to an end, and the Pokemon world will never be the same again. And no matter what happens, I do have a feeling that Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon will be the end of this particular story arc in Pokemon. And starting with Pokemon on the Switch, we'll begin a new one. And maybe that's all that the end really means. The end of Pokemon on the 3DS. Anyway, so there may not be that whole three-way merger. But if it's at least the goal to merge all three, then boom, there you go. It's a similar vein to Black and White 2. We know that if all of the legendaries merged, they would become the original dragon, but they never do. Only 2 of them merge. I'm thinking it will probably be the same here. Only 2 of them ever merge, but the plan was for all 3 of them to. And like I said, this video isn't meant to be going into crazy detail, it's just covering a bit more about those reveal trailers, but as we count down the days to Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and after they release of course, you can expect a whole slew of videos about alchemy and Pokemon in this new miniseries called Poke Alchemy that I've been working on. And it's called Poke Alchemy because I'm uncreative with names. But yes, each topic is getting its own video, and I'll be going into much more detail than I did on those The End videos. If you would like to support this endeavor, which would not only be greatly appreciated, but I also kind of need it right now because of all of the demonetization going on. Donation, Patreon, and now you can buy an awesome t-shirt from the merch store on Teespring. All of it is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching and for everything. This has been a blast. Until next time, please remember to never stop using your noggin. And come up with something for me to say here. I have a lot of future speculation as to what Necrozma means and what it will do in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So consider this a temporary episode 3 of that series, but a final version of episode 3 will come out sometime after Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and it will go over what actually happened rather than speculation. So, Pokemon Sun and Moon is what alchemists over the ages were constantly trying to create. Also, it should be noted that in alchemy, the Sun and Moon are considered to be planets, and the Sun is a separate entity from the stars, and the stars are singularly one entity. It was a different time. Alchemy is a mixture of science and spirituality, science and magic, which fits right into the Pokemon world. Oh, hello, this is Loxton and you're watching Gnoggin. So I've been working on a series that covers the alchemy inspirations in Pokemon in detail recently. All of those are linked here. And while this video is covering the same topic, I'm leaving it out of that series under technicality, just because I want that series to be wholly based on what we know for sure, more factual, less future speculation. And this video later on is going to, it is the spirit, the soul, it's everywhere, it's in all of us, and it's God Almighty, and it's based in light. Mastering even a fraction of the element of Azoth would grant you infinite wisdom and immortality. And the Philosopher's Stone is said to grant some power over the Azoth, hence why are both heavily inspired by alchemy, especially the lore surrounding the legendaries, and the ultimate goal of alchemy was twofold. First, it was to convert lead into gold, and secondly, the most prevalent one, is the ultimate power over Azoth, leading to immortality. But what is Azoth? Well, it's everything. It's the power of the infinite.